The next aspect I want to cover, the next part of the precepts I want to cover is the refuges. And the refuges are, I take refuge in the Buddha, I take refuge in the Dharma, I take refuge in the Sangha. So when we talk about refuge, I think about refuge in a couple of different ways. And there are probably many other ways to consider or think about the refuges. But I think about the refuges as first being like a lighthouse, as being like a beacon to show us the way. And I also view the refuges as like a raft, that when we're in turbulent waters within our own practice, within our own psychology and personality and life, we can rest in the refuges. The refuge in the Buddha is both recognizing the example of the Buddha. The Buddha put together the Theravadan practices that were the anchor, the cornerstone of Buddhism for generations, and really displayed and supported the step-by-step purification of mind and purification of view, leading up to the experience of cessation, which is one of the hallmarks of awakening in the Theravadan tradition. And also the Buddha had his own great enlightenment, his own awakening. So a sudden awakening experience, which is really the hallmark of the Zen tradition. So to me, both traditions really encapsulate the different approaches that we can take. In fact, my next book that I'm just finishing now is specifically on that, on the progressive practice of Theravada Buddhism and also the Zen tradition, so the sudden and gradual approaches to practice. So the Buddha is both an example to us, someone who lived a life, who practiced, who put together teachings and practices that remarkably are still relevant for us today, 2,600 years later, with our complex world and our complex psychologies. These practices still work. They still do what they did then. I take refuge in the Dharma. The Dharma can be viewed as teaching the practices. It can also be looked at as universal laws like the law of karma, the law of cause and effect. So it's taking refuge in the teachings, understanding the teachings are here both for us to learn and for us to investigate ourselves, to see what's in harmony with the Buddha way, the absolute, and what's in disharmony. Where do we need to work to improve our behavior, our attitude? How do we mature as people? How do we become more emotionally intelligent? One of the things I've learned from Sando Roshi is working with Glassman Roshi is when you're interacting with someone who's homeless, one of the first things that one should do when you engage with a homeless person is introduce yourself. Hi, my name is Stephen. What's your name? I did that when I was in London last year. There was this homeless man who looked like he had been on the street for many, many years. That leathery skin and almost no teeth, this kind of a person. And people were giving him money. He looked really, really destitute. And as I was walking by, we caught eyes, and I did that. I walked up and introduced myself to him. And the reaction that I saw from him was just this sort of startle that somebody was seeing him as a human, seeing his Buddha nature, seeing that he's an expression of the absolute. And each day I went by there, I said hi to him by name while I was staying nearby. And I could see just that created some humanity in a way that he wasn't a thing anymore. He was a person. And I'm not saying we need to make a mission of taking care of the homeless, but I'm saying we meet life where it is. And this is part of the refuges. We take refuge in the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. The Sangha is the most strict definition is it's the community of Buddhist practitioners. We're a Sangha here. we're a particular Sangha. Also, the broader community of Buddhists are a Sangha. And we can expand that on to humanity and even to sentient beings and all life. They're all Sangha. So it's understanding our relationship in all these different groups. So it's really learning that we can rest in these different aspects of the Buddha, the Dharma, the Sangha, and also we can open and surrender and be held by them, be supported by them too. So the refuges are an important part of taking the precepts. Any questions on the refuges? Okay, I want to turn to the pure precepts. The pure precepts are, the first is cease from evil, the second is do good, and the third is do good for others. So what does evil mean? Cease from evil. I mean, we've seen movies and there are evil characters that do bad things. But, when we do bad things, are we being evil? It's a really, really loaded word. But to me, when we break that down, we can see that evil can simply mean when we're really in that particularly selfish mode. When I want what I want and I don't care if I knock other people down getting there to get what I want. I think we can agree that that's evil. And I don't mean, again, evil in this big pronouncement, but just it's not in accord with the goodness of the absolute, of the love. So we're selfishly getting what we want. Really maintaining our self-centeredness is another way that we're expressing evil. We're saying that I matter more than someone else matters. I'm more important, my needs are more important. And it's not necessarily true. But it's a perspective we have based on our personality being reinforced. Evil can also be when we intentionally hurt another. We're in a fight with our partner. They say something that feels like a kind of a paper cut to your heart. And so there's a sense of fear, of weakness, of harm. And so many times we'll turn and lash out. We'll want to hurt them at least as much as we were hurt, if not more. So we intentionally be cruel to the other. We say something we know is going to land and is going to leave a mark. To me, that's evil also. That's the expression. So it's the being aware that we're hurting another and intentionally doing it. And it's not always necessary. We could take a moment, reflect, feel our wound, realize that it hit a tender spot, and file that away. I've got this tender spot in this area. But how do we not be reactive from that? How do we move to the next pure precept to do good? My partner says something to me that feels hurtful. How do I not continue the hurtfulness? How do I bring it back to a wholesomeness, a goodness? How do I try and connect, try to unify, bring together rather than separate? So action that's generative, that's unifying, and maybe even selfless. I may be getting a smaller share of something because I'm giving someone else the larger share. That's doing good. Doesn't mean we don't need to hold on to things and take care of ourselves. But it's really learning to help others without an expectation of recognition or reward. We do good because it's the right thing to do, not because we want to get a badge or a medal or have people talk well about us, exalt us. That's not it. We're doing good because it's the right thing to do. That's what doing good is. And doing good for others. So doing good for others means treating others, seeing others as ourself. It's in the undividedness of the absolute the non-separation, the non-duality. You are the same as me. You are 100% the same as me. Your success is my success. Your pain is my pain. That's reality. So we're all of these precepts are pointing to the reality that's already here. We just conceptually and psychologically create separation and boundary, and we think we're divided and apart, and we're not. So we're learning to work in the undividedness. That's what the pure precepts are aiming us towards.